Hey guys, let's talk about some knives. I want to take a quick second and say thank you to the channel members. Thank you all so much. Appreciate all of y'all that came out for the members only live stream. Had a blast. Enjoy hanging out with you guys. We'll do that weekly. And I want to say thank you for anybody who comes in and checks out my knife, my EDC content. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch the content. If you like it and you're so inclined, if you haven't yet, if you'd hit that subscribe button and that bell notification icon, it would really help me out. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about 10 knives that I consider to be kind of OG knives. These are knives that I've had for a couple of years in most cases. They're knives that are, most of them are still made. This one, which is number 10, the Benchmade Mini Locos, which is one of my favorite Benchmades. This is actually a first production copy. I don't think this is still made, but this knife is an S30V. It is got a G10 handle that is very Benchmade-likey. It is very thick. You'll notice the standoffs are very, very beefy. You've got a lanyard hole, a little short, deep carry clip. You've got super thick blade stock on this knife. This knife, as far as Benchmades goes, maybe, and I'm not even going to say maybe, but I'm thinking it may be the thickest Benchmade out there, because it comes in right at 0.1540, the spine thickness. So it is a pretty beefy boy, and it's got kind of a pistol grip handle that I think is very, very comfortable, kind of like that banana handle that just fits in your hand so well. And then my favorite part of it is it's got a deployment hole. It was an early deployment hole knife, because I think this knife's been around for quite a while. It is a kind of a mid-size, I kind of think of it as a mini Adamas size knife. It's going to come in right about 7.5 inches, a little bit over, just a hair over 7.5 inches, with 3¼ inch blade and 3 1/8 inch cutting area. And then you've got an inside handle dimension here of right over 3.5 inches. So this is the Benchmade Mini Locos. It's a knife that I've had in the collection, probably one of my first or second kind of over $100 knife that I bought. And this is a fantastic one. I bought it at St. Nick's Knives here in my hometown. Love it. Moving on, we come to probably one of my favorite Kizer knives that is an OG. I don't even know if you can still get this in carbon fiber. I think you can get it in some configurations. I think of this as kind of the perfect gentleman's folder for me, for what I like in a lighter knife. This is the Kizer Genie. It is a front flipper that works very, very well. Drop shut action. Has a blade hole that's super snappy for deployment, for that reverse finger flick. And then it is a medium-sized knife, but it is very thin and it is very light. So it makes for a great office carry. A great EDC knife, a great gentleman's folder, modern gentleman's folder you might say. It's got an S35VN blade, very sharp, carbon fiber scales, carbon fiber handles, and a titanium clip. And I picked this up, if I'm not mistaken, either at Blade HQ or at Amazon, again, many, many years ago. I recently rediscovered this knife. The only downside, and it's not even a downside, it's got a deep carry clip, but it is a little bit tight, and it's a smaller titanium clip. Very low blade markings. You've got a really tiny S35VN and a real tiny Kizer there. And then in this corner, you just got the GE for the Genie. So it looks like a very sterile knife, liner lock, steel liner, nice titanium backspacer. Drop shut action. It's also going to come in at, it's 7 3/4 inches with a 3.5 inch blade, 4 inch handle, and a 3 1/4 inch cutting area. And where this knife with a 3 1/4 inch cutting area really shines to me as a gentleman's folder is it weighs 2.25 ounces. So it weighs a full ounce under the ounce per ounce rule, if that's a rule. I've heard it somewhere. I don't think I just made that up. But this is the Kizer Genie. This is probably, like I say, one of my favorite Kizers. I know they brought it back in a lot of more budgetary kind of offerings, and I think it's still available in some budgetary offerings. I'd love to see Kizer kind of rejuice a knife like this in premium materials. But this is the Genie, and it is an absolute banger. I would be remiss to not bring out one of the best values in a USA-made knife, and probably, or a knife, not knife. I'm not a hick, but yeah, it's a fantastic knife. If you like the Benchmade Griptilian, you're going to love the Doug Ritter, Ritter Hogue, RSK MK2, something like that. I don't even know the name of it. It's the Doug Ritter, Ritter Hogue exclusive, RSK MK2, something like that. It's only available at Knife Works. So you have to go to Knife Works to get it. They have them in stock. When I picked it up, I've also got a mini, because Doug worked with Benchmade and was an integral designer in the Griptilian that looks very similar to this. This knife, when Benchmade and Doug parted ways, Hogue picked up the partnership. KnifeWorks was the exclusive seller, and they remade this knife. And what they did, different than a Benchmade, I don't have my Spyderco out here because I can show you, these liners, these small liners where this Axis bar lock goes, are probably twice as thick as the Benchmades. This one has 20 CV steel. Now they come in MagnaCut, where the Benchmade's S30V. This one, when I bought it, it was like $158. Now they're right around $200 with MagnaCut. The milling on the G10 handles on this knife is so good. It's so grippy. You've got a reversible clip, deep carry clip, standard. All this is standard. Again, 20 CV, thumb studs, an absolute slicer, medium size to full size knife. And I've also got the mini, so if this knife's too big for you, you can go to KnifeWorks and you can look at the Ritter Hogue Mini RSK MK2, or whatever it's called. It's about the same size as the mini grip. So they're very, very similar, but that's because they were kind of designed by the same guy. And yeah, so this is the full size Ritter Hogue is right at 8 1/8 inches with a blade of, we're just going to call it right under 3.5 inches, an inside grip of 4 inches from here to here, cutting edge of 3.5 inches. Really beefy bar, unlike the Benchmade. It just grips better. I just think it's improved upon the Benchmade in a lot of different areas, a lot of different ways. I love this knife. I have two of these. One of them is a Knives Live commemorative one that has some markings on the blade. One of them is this black one, and then one of them is my purple Giantmouse Mini. So I think that's 1098, which brings us to number 7. This is, and I can say it because this is the Luft Concepts Avant. This is the Avant before they changed the name. This was the first drop. This is number 126, the 126th Avant. I actually picked this up, I think, from either Lefty or I picked it up from somebody on the secondary because I did not get it on drop, but it was a catch and release for somebody. And I'm thinking it might not have been Lefty. It may have been my buddy A to Z EDC. But this is Jake Bearded Gear's knife, his first knife, and I love it. I fell in love with it right out of the gate. I did not upgrade when they came out with the titanium and some of the fancier ones because I like the lightweight of this micarta. A lot of people say, well, for such an expensive knife, doesn't it feel not equal to the cost? And I don't see it that way. I look at knives like Wells and others that are light, nice materials. You've got M390 on the blade. You've got a deep, deep hollow grind, DLC coated here, Riot OEM'd. Really nice micarta that's aged well. A wonderful wire reversible pocket clip. And this thing is just slicey as shit. Because it's designed to cut. Even though I'm not a good cutter. The Luft Concepts Avant is one of my favorite knives. I don't carry it nearly enough. It's an older knife. And lately, I don't want to turn this into a downer video or just a different way to look at things. So, as you guys, if you follow the channel for any while, you know I'm a knife addict. I chased and bought knives weekly, you know, tons of them. I wasn't getting them sent to me. I was buying knives and reviewing them because I love knives and I was collecting them. So I lost our whole management. I worked for a corporation, senior management, had about 8 years. So I had made a pretty good living, and they had kind of did away with our whole digital management team enterprise-wide. So it changed my, you know, it just changed that I was no longer buying knives all the time, which really gave me kind of an epiphany. I still had to make content. I still had, by this time, a few companies sending me a few knives, which I'm very, very thankful for. And I always tell you guys when somebody sends me them, all these knives are knives I bought that I'm showing you today. But this guy was just an absolute winner. I love this knife. Bought it, would buy it again if I could. If I didn't have this knife, I might be interested in the titanium. But like I say, I like the light color. But my point was going to be what I've kind of been forced to do, not only making content, but I'm able, since I'm not chasing every knife, and that was number 7, because I can't, I'm rediscovering some absolute winners that I've purchased over the years that are fantastic knives, that are as good as anything I get today. It's weird when I had to break that cycle. It wasn't because I wanted to. I just kind of had to break the cycle. Because I'd get a knife, I'd carry it for a while, do a review on it, I'd love it, something new would come out, I'd get it, then it would be my new kind of go-to knife, and that knife would eventually get pushed back to the back of a case too. Now, I'm not one of those guys, if I don't carry it, I don't keep it, because I do keep knives. I think I sell very, very few. I know Paul Mills and I have made a few deals. I think I've purchased a few from a couple of other guys and made a few trades with a couple of guys. But I usually keep my knives, and then I give a shitload away and, you know, give at live streams because I like to. Especially the budget knives that I don't use anymore. And then I like to give away knives that I don't carry that cost a little bit more to members. But this one here is one of my favorite knives. It's a knife that I've had for a while. It's the original liner lock Vero Engineering Axon. I've also got a fixed blade Axon that's much newer than this knife. But this is the knife that started it for me. This is Bestech OEM'd. It's a very simple front flipper knife that has this very nice blade rectangle cut out of it that's stonewashed, and that's what allows you to flip that knife. That's where I can get in there and either thumb flick it, middle finger flick it, or you can use the front flipper. It's M390, again OEM'd by Bestech. This one's got micarta scales and almost a full-length titanium backspacer. I also have some topographic G10 scales that I bought for this. This one's number 797 of the first run. So it's a knife that's kind of a forever knife for me. I love it. It carries great. It's got very minimal branding. You've only got Vero there on the spine. I think it's sexy. It is a fantastic Wharncliffe blade that has a screaming edge geometry. So does the fixed blade, but it's just a joy. It's a very light knife, because you just got those light steel liners or titanium liners that are milled out. And that micarta handle, it is just an absolute winner. One of my favorite knives. For the longest time, it was my favorite knife until I got my field duty EDC, which even till to today is probably my favorite knife. So this is right at 8 inches. With a 3.5 inch blade, an inside grip, I'm going to call it an easy 4 inches. It's really 4 1/4. Cutting area, 3 1/8. On skiffs, perfect action, perfect centering, perfect clip. I love this knife. This is the Vero Axon, and it is going to come in today at number 109876, which brings us to number 5. And guys, this is kind of in the order that these came into my collection. Number 5 is probably the most value conscious knife in the group, or the best value in the group, I'll say. And this knife is still available. It still comes out. It is the Maxace Black Mirror. It doesn't look like any of the crazy Maxace knives that I love, like the Sandstorm that I had that I gave away on a Friday Night Flicks, or like my Babylon button lock that I love, that I still have. This is a little M390 titanium. Fantastic access to the lock bar, frame lock. $142 is what this knife cost me. Very minimal blade markings. You've just got black mirror, Bowler M390. You don't even have Maxace on it. You have sterile pivots. You've got Maxace on the clip. Got a nice jimped out back spacer. Guys, this is a fantastic knife. I love the blade shape. I love the simplicity of it. And what really attracted me to it was the value for the dollar. They came out with a knife after this that I gave away on a member giveaway. It was the Maxace, I can't remember the name, but I didn't like the blade as much. It didn't have nearly the cutting geometry, but it was S90V. I really liked that. And it was the same price. What was that knife called? One of you guys won it. But anyway, it was titanium. Maxace does some fantastic things with value priced knives. That is a knife that's not a budget knife, but you get a lot of knife with great materials, great fit and finish for a very, very reasonable price. Like I said, this was $142. If you got a carbon fiber inlay, it only jumped it up to $148. Fantastic knife. The black mirror is kind of a classic in that respect, and I've kept it. I will keep it. It's kind of a forever knife because it is so damn usable. And just to give you an idea, it's a little bit on the smaller side. Not smaller, but it's going to be more towards that medium. It's going to come in at 7.5 inches with a 3 1/4 inch blade, an inside handle of 4 inches, and a 3 1/8 inch cutting area. So that is the Maxace Black Mirror. Fantastic knife, fantastic value, and it is number 5. Which brings us to number 4. Number 4 is probably my second favorite Giantmouse, right behind the Ace Grand. This is the Giantmouse Ace Jutland. It reminds me of that Benchmade, what's it called? The yellow tag dowel. It reminds me in blade shape kind of a tag dowel. It's a tall, flat ground blade with a really cool clip point that's got splinter digger, pokey, stabby potential. Beautiful swedge. This is L-Max micarta. Fantastic jimp backspacer, wire, reversible clip. I'm a huge fan of Giantmouse. I'm a huge fan of even my Ace Biblio. I know they're Italian made. I know that they've been beat up like a lot of have for heat treat, not doing it as good. I don't know how well they heat treat their L-Max, but it's a great knife, guys. It's really slicey. It's probably a great skinner, bird, game, trout, fishing knife, but it's also a great EDC knife. It's going to be about the same size as the Spyderco PM2, so I do call it kind of a full-size knife. I can get a full 4-finger grip behind that flipper tab, but I keep it up here and use that flipper tab kind of as a trigger, and then use that swedge as my finger brace. But you can keep your back grip here, and also, you know, for your pokey, stabby type stuff, and if you just don't like choking up that far. But this guy is going to weigh in at, I think I already did this, but maybe not, 8 1/8 inches with a 3 1/2 inch blade, an inside grip of 3 3/4. Go to that outside to inside, it's 4 1/8. And if you go to where I go in front of that flipper tab, you're at 4 1/2 inches. So I think it probably is going to fit most hands. It is a slender knife, but has contour scales. Slender knife for a Giantmouse. Perfectly centered. It does have the flipper tab that's really well jimped and contoured out. When I say contoured out, it's got a little whoop-de-doo there, so whether you light switch it or push button it, it's very responsive. So you never have to use the deployment hole to thumb flick it or reverse finger flick it. You can just flip it. Great knife, L-Max. I want to say this when I got it, under $300, maybe $295. I don't know that for sure, but I'll leave links to all these. But that's going to be number 4. And again, the reason they're being rated this way is they're when they came in the collection, right? So it's not like they're favorites. They're all favorites. They've all stuck around. They're all kind of, like the thumbnail says, you know, knives from days gone by that are still freaking fantastic knives. And this is a freaking fantastic knife if there ever was one. This is one of my definitely one of my top 10 knives. Maybe not a top 5, but really dang close. This is the Renegade Provisions Riot OEM'd God of Mischief, or GOM. It is a front flipper that has a perfectly done front flipper. They got 100% right. Jimping comes all the way over the top. I don't have a long enough finger to comfortably do the reach around, but anywhere that you go to get this knife, the jimping is going to catch your hand. Because like I say, it just doesn't run up the face. It runs all the way over and goes back. It's got a super sharp deployment hole. You can see my fingernail dust fly off every time I flick it. Watch right there when I flick it. It's going to look like it's flying dust debris. You can even see it there in the fuller. In that yucky, I've got my DNA on it. I love this knife, guys. I love the detent. I love the blade. Perfectly straight. M390. DLC coated. You've got black titanium bolsters. Black backspacer, lanyard loop that's kind of hidden there, and then this one's black micarta, so it's just kind of a nightmare, midnight, dark, black, stealthy GOM. I'm a huge fan. I love this knife. Just a fantastic knife. A knife I don't carry as much because, again, it's well over a year old now, so I've had a lot of knives come into the family that took precedence of it. It's a bolster lock. Again, front flipper or deployment hole, which is kind of going to be a theme in all of these videos. It's got a fantastic finger choil. My primary grip is right here. This is going to be much smaller than the first knife Renegade put out, the gun rear. This one is going to weigh in at 7 3/4 inches with a 3 1/4 inch blade, we'll call it. A little bit bigger than that. 3-inch cutting area. Inside grip, which is kind of crazy, to the choil of 4 inches. And that's right here. If you wanted to do this back grip, which would be crazy, you're at 3 1/4, because I'd get stuff caught up in that. And if you want to take this back area to the choil, you're at a comfortable 4 1/2 inches. Clip works great and causes no distress on the hand. You've got really nice jimping and this slight little harpoon here that really locks in your hand. It is a great knife, guys. This is the Renegade Provisions God of Mischief, one of my favorites. A knife that is as good as really anything I've gotten in the last year. Moving on, we come to this weird little bastard. I fell in love with this the year before last at Blade Show. This is the EMP EDC Ronin. The Ronin is an LMAX, stone-washed front flipper with a deployment hole. It's a Tonto compound grind where you got this deep, deep hollow here, and then you've got this flat. You got this really nice swedge, a grip that allows you to choke up. You've got this whole choil there, and then you've got the back grip. And this thing is slicey, both on the hollow grind. I'm a big fan of LMAX too, but that front grind is slicey, even though it's much thicker, and it's very pokey, very stabby, very much a Slurpee saver. And I think that's the only Tonto in this group, but this is the probably one of the ones you see the least from EMP EDC. It's the EMP EDC. It's got crap all over it. The EMP EDC, it's got dirt, but EMP EDC Ronin. It is going to clock in right at 7 3/4 inches with a we're going to call it 3 1/4. It's a little bit longer than that. 3 1/4 inch blade. You've got a cutting area of 2 and 3, a little over 2 1/4 plus an inch. This front area is an inch. And then your grip, your inside grip is 4 1/2 to right here. Right at 4 inches to right here. So the Ronin, fantastic little titanium. Got a concealed lanyard loop there. Frame lock. Drop shut action in LMAX. Love this little knife. So that is going to be number 2, which brings us to number 1, which is a great knife. I don't carry it or appreciate it enough, but I love it. It's a big knife. It's probably the biggest one on this list. And this is my Protech Magic Whiskers 2. You've got this little lanyard loop back here. You've got this back spring. You've got no button. But what you do have is you have these little grooves right here on the butt of the knife. The Magic Whiskers, you just shifted that bolster to deploy it. This one, you take your butt of your hand and you just give it a little twitch, a little flicky like that. See how that flicks? See how that back scale moves? I don't know if you can see it moving. But anyway, I can in one hand close it, hold the clip, hold the knife out, say, you talking to me? You want my Slurpee? I don't think so, right? Because it's just one of those, I can hand it to my mom, to my dad, to a lot of my friends. It's not that intuitive to know how to open it. I had to look, and see, because I thought it was going to open this way. But it is 154 cm. It is a full-size knife made in the USA by Protech. It is, I love the deep carry clip on it. I love the ergonomics. It is a huge knife, over 8 1/2 inches, with over 3 3/4 inch blade, 3 3/4 inch cutting area, interior handle of 4 1/2. Really nice sharpening choil. Very nice, rough grind with great blade geometry. And a very pokey, stabby tip. Just a neat knife. One of those knives that, to me, it wasn't something that I would normally jump on. But after playing with my buddy A to Z's Magic Whiskers 1 and doing a review on it, I didn't know it was going to be this big, but that didn't bother me. I did like the knife. I love the design. I'm a fan of Protech. And these are just 10 really cool knives that hopefully, if you guys get to a point to where you're not chasing knives or buying knives, you'll appreciate the ones you've got, right? I've kind of been forced to go back into my collection, and it's been a godsend. Do I miss getting knives? Are there still knives I want? Well, sure. But I've changed kind of my compulsive behavior, maybe you'll say, and do things a little bit differently, right? And I'm blessed, fortunate, and lucky that I've been able to collect some killer knives over the years when I was, you know, a contributing member of society with a good job and doing my thing. But these are all bangers, guys. I love these knives. I will put a list of what they all are. You might be able to find the mini Locos on the secondary. You probably won't be able to find this Avant except for on the secondary, but you can still find Avants. I think it's called Avant without the N now. Something weird happened there. But anyways, guys, 10 killer knives that are older than new knives, but they're as good, and I'll put them up against any of the new knives that are out there. I love the new knives. I love seeing new knives come out. These are great knives. I think all of us have great knives. Go back, check out your knives, guys. Check on each other. Look out for the guy or gal to your left. Look out for the guy or gal to your right. Hit the like button. Go forward with love in your heart. And always choose debate, not hate. I love you all. Peace.